My house has 3 bathrooms, 2 daughters, and 1 very expensive wife. The bathrooms work perfectly. The daughters are angels. The wife? Well, let's just say even our golden retriever, Murphy, seems to prefer sleeping in my home office these days. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I'm Jason Fairburn, 38 years old, and I fix computers for a living. Not the most glamorous profession in our affluent Dallas suburb of Meadowbrook Heights, where every other husband is either a surgeon, lawyer, or entrepreneur who inherited daddy's money. But I'm good at what I do, and it pays well enough to keep Laura in her designer handbags and weekly spa treatments. Laura Staples-Fairburn, she insisted on keeping both names for professional reasons, is a corporate attorney at Henderson & Associates. She's beautiful, I'll give her that. Blonde hair that costs more to maintain than my car payments, legs that go on for days, and a smile that could melt ice. Too bad she saves that smile for everyone except her family. Jason, did you remember to pick up my dry cleaning? Laura called from the kitchen, her voice carrying that particular edge that meant I'd forgotten something important. Again. It's in the closet, I replied, not looking up from my laptop. I was troubleshooting a network issue for a client, but more importantly, I was avoiding another conversation about how I don't contribute enough to our social life. Beth, my 12-year-old, looked up from her homework at the dining room table. Mom's friends are coming over again? Apparently, I said, ruffling her dark hair. Beth had inherited my practical nature and my tendency toward sarcasm. At 12, she was already sharper than most adults I knew. 9-year-old Janie bounced into the room, still in her soccer uniform. Dad, can we go camping this weekend? Tommy's dad is taking their whole family to Lake Texoma. We'll see, sweetheart. I knew Laura would never agree. Camping involved dirt, bugs, and worst of all, being disconnected from her precious social media feeds. Absolutely not, Laura said, appearing in the doorway with a glass of wine already in hand. It was only 6:30. I have the charity auction planning meeting on Saturday, and Jason needs to be here to help set up. I need to be here to move furniture while you and the queen bees decide which color tablecloths will best complement your egos, I muttered under my breath. What was that? Nothing, honey, just agreeing with your superior organizational skills. Laura's eyes narrowed, but before she could respond, the doorbell rang. Her whole demeanor shifted instantly, shoulders back, smile activated, wine glass positioned just so. That'll be Danny and Sam, she announced, smoothing her already perfect hair. Girls, go upstairs and do your homework. Jason, try not to embarrass me. Danny Morrison and Sam Chen were Laura's closest friends, which meant they were also the most insufferable people in our neighborhood. Danny was married to a plastic surgeon and had the face to prove it. Sam's husband owned 3 car dealerships, and she never let anyone forget it. Laura, darling, Danny swept into our foyer like she owned the place. Love what you've done with the entryway. Very rustic. I'd installed new hardwood floors myself, saving us about $3,000. But in Danny's world, anything you did yourself was automatically rustic, which was code for poor. Jason, Sam nodded at me with the enthusiasm usually reserved for root canals. Still fixing computers? Still making money, I replied with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. The 3 women disappeared into Laura's home office. Sorry, her creative space, with another bottle of wine and what sounded like a folder full of important documents. I helped the girls with their homework, made dinner, and tried to ignore the increasingly loud laughter coming from down the hall. Around 10 o'clock, after Danny and Sam had finally left and the girls were in bed, I was loading the dishwasher when I overheard Laura on a phone call in the living room. No, he doesn't suspect anything, she was saying, her voice lower than usual. He's too busy with his little computer projects to pay attention. I froze, a wine glass halfway to the top rack. Thursday works perfectly. He has that client meeting in Austin, won't be back until late. A pause, then a laugh I didn't recognize. Trust me, Scott, he's completely clueless. Scott. Scott Williams. The real estate agent who'd sold us this house 3 years ago. The one with the perfect teeth and the gym membership he mentioned every 5 minutes. The one who'd been texting Laura about property investments for the past 6 months. I finished loading the dishwasher very quietly, my mind racing. When Laura came into the kitchen 20 minutes later, I was sitting at the counter with my own glass of wine, scrolling through emails on my phone. Working late again? She asked, but there was something different in her tone. Guilty, maybe. A client emergency, I lied smoothly. You know how it is. She nodded and headed toward the stairs. I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late. Wouldn't dream of it. After she was gone, I sat in the dark kitchen for a long time, pieces of a puzzle clicking together in my mind. The late nights at the office, the new gym membership, the way she'd started doing her hair differently, the mysterious girls' nights that never seemed to include any girls I knew. My phone buzzed with a text message, unknown number. Hey stranger, guess what? I'm getting married. You're invited to the wedding of the century. Hope you can make it. Tiffany. Tiffany Rogers, my ex-girlfriend from college, the one who dumped me for a guy with a trust fund, then spent the next 15 years posting about her fabulous life on social media, the one who'd somehow gotten my new number. I stared at the message for a long moment, then looked around my perfect kitchen in my perfect house with my perfect family that was apparently falling apart while I wasn't paying attention. Well, I said to Murphy, who'd wandered in looking for late-night treats. This should be interesting. The dog wagged his tail sympathetically. At least someone in this house still liked me. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before in 15 years of marriage. I went through Laura's things while she was in the shower. Her purse was sitting on the kitchen counter, practically calling my name. Inside, beneath the usual collection of receipts, lip gloss, and business cards, I found a second phone, a cheap flip phone that definitely wasn't part of our family plan. My hands were shaking as I opened it. The text history was like reading someone else's marriage, someone whose wife actually wanted to be with them. Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear the red dress. Scott. Last night was incredible. When can we do it again? Laura. Your husband is such a bore. How do you stand it? Scott. He's a good father, but God, the man has no passion, not like you. Laura. I took pictures of everything with my real phone, my anger building with each message. The most recent exchange was from yesterday. Thursday's perfect. He'll be in Austin until late. Your place or mine? Laura. Mine. I have something special planned. Scott. Can't wait. I love you. Laura. I love you. She hadn't said those words to me in months. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it and went to work, spending the entire day planning my next move. By the time I got home, I'd made several important decisions. First, I was going to Tiffany's wedding. Why not? My own marriage was apparently over. Second, I was going to find out exactly what my wife and her boyfriend were up to. Third, I was going to make sure they both regretted underestimating me. How was your day? Laura asked when I walked in, the picture of domestic bliss. She was making dinner, actually cooking, not just reheating takeout, and had changed into a dress I'd never seen before. Productive, I said, kissing her cheek. She smelled like expensive perfume. You look nice? Special occasion? Just felt like dressing up. She turned back to the stove, but I caught the flush in her cheeks. Oh, I forgot to mention, I have a late meeting tomorrow night. Might not be home until after midnight. No problem. I'll handle bedtime with the girls. She looked surprised. Usually I complained about her late nights. Thanks. You're the best. The best. Right. Thursday evening, I told Laura I was leaving for Austin, but instead drove to Scott's neighborhood and parked across the street from his townhouse. At 7:30, Laura's BMW pulled into his driveway. I watched my wife of 15 years walk up to another man's door carrying an overnight bag. Watched him answer in a silk robe. Watched them kiss like teenagers before disappearing inside. I sat in my car for 2 hours, taking pictures, making notes, and planning their destruction. When I finally went home, I found the girls asleep and a note on the kitchen counter. Meeting ran late. Don't wait up. L. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I researched divorce lawyers, private investigators, and property law. By morning, I had a plan. Dad, you look terrible, Beth observed over breakfast. Thanks, sweetheart. Your honesty is refreshing. Are you and Mom fighting? Janie asked, her big brown eyes worried. No, baby. Mom and I are just working through some things. Laura breezed in around 10, looking radiant and well-rested. Sorry I'm so late. The meeting went until after 2. Must have been some meeting, I said, not looking up from my laptop. You know how it is with big clients. They want everything perfect. I'll bet they do. The breaking point came the following week at the Meadowbrook Heights Community Pool's annual barbecue. It was one of those mandatory neighborhood events where everyone pretended to like each other while gossiping behind backs and comparing bank accounts. Laura was holding court by the pool with Danny and Sam, looking gorgeous in a white sundress that probably cost more than most people's rent. Scott was there too, playing volleyball with the other athletic husbands, making sure everyone noticed his abs. I was manning the grill with the other domestic husbands when I overheard Danny talking to a group of women by the poolside bar. Honestly, I don't know how Laura stands it, she was saying, her voice carrying clearly across the water. Jason's sweet, but he's more houseplant than husband, if you know what I mean. The other women laughed. Sam chimed in. At least he's useful. My Tom can't even load a dishwasher properly. But there's useful, and then there's exciting, another voice added. Laura deserves someone who can keep up with her. Oh, she's definitely found that, Danny said with a knowing smile. Have you seen her lately? She's practically glowing. More laughter. I flipped burgers and smiled at their husbands, who had no idea their wives were dissecting my marriage like a biology experiment. That's when I noticed Scott had left the volleyball game and was talking quietly with Laura by the diving board. His hand was on her lower back, a casual touch that looked innocent unless you knew what to look for. I excused myself from grill duty and walked over to the pool house, where the community association kept their AV equipment for events. It took me exactly 3 minutes to hack into the system that controlled the big screen they used for movie nights. 5 minutes later, I was back at the grill when the screen flickered to life. Instead of the usual community announcements, it was displaying a slideshow of text messages. Scott's messages to my wife, complete with timestamps and phone numbers. The reaction was immediate and spectacular. "Oh my God," someone gasped. "Is that Scott Williams' number?" "Who's Laura S.?" I watched Scott's face go white as he realized what was happening. Laura looked like she might faint. The entire party had stopped to stare at the screen, reading their private conversations for all to see. "Can't wait to have you all to myself tonight. Your husband will never satisfy you like I do. Leave him. We could be so happy together." Danny's perfectly sculpted mouth was hanging open. Sam was frantically taking pictures with her phone, probably already planning how to share this gossip with the rest of the neighborhood. Scott tried to run toward the pool house, but I was already there, calmly disconnecting my laptop from their system. "You son of a bitch," he snarled, grabbing my arm. "I'm sorry. Is there a problem?" I asked loudly enough for everyone to hear. I was just trying to help with the technical difficulties. By now, the entire party was watching us. Laura was crying, Danny and Sam were pretending to comfort her while clearly loving every second of the drama, and Scott looked like he wanted to punch me. "You planned this," he said. "Planned what?" "I just fixed your projector. I had no idea it was going to display your personal messages." I smiled innocently. "Maybe you should be more careful about your privacy settings." The crowd was murmuring now, pieces of the story clicking together. Scott Williams, the married real estate agent, was having an affair with Laura Fairburn, the attorney. The messages made it clear this had been going on for months. "Jason, I can explain," Laura started, but I held up a hand. "No need," I said calmly. "I think everyone understands perfectly." I walked back to the grill, finished cooking the burgers, and served them with a smile. Laura and Scott had disappeared, along with most of the gossip-hungry crowd who'd rushed home to share the news on social media. By the time I packed up to leave, my phone was buzzing with messages from neighbors, friends, and people I barely knew. The story was already spreading beyond Meadowbrook Heights. Danny cornered me by my car. "Jason, I had no idea." "Of course you didn't," I said pleasantly. "You're such a good friend to Laura. I'm sure she'll appreciate your support during this difficult time." Her face flushed. She knew I'd heard her comments about my marriage. When I got home, Laura was waiting in the kitchen with red eyes and smeared makeup. "We need to talk," she said. "Do we?" I asked, setting down my keys. "I thought your boyfriend covered all the important conversation topics." "It's not what you think. Really, because I think you've been screwing Scott Williams for 6 months while lying to me and our daughters. I think you've been planning to leave me for him. And I think you've been letting your friends mock me while you played the victim of a boring marriage." I opened the refrigerator and pulled out a beer. "Which part did I get wrong?" She stared at me, probably seeing me clearly for the first time in years. "Everything's different now," she whispered. "Yes," I agreed, taking a long drink. "It certainly is." 2 weeks later, I was standing in the lobby of the Four Seasons in Austin, wearing my best suit and wondering what the hell I was doing at my ex-girlfriend's wedding. The pool party incident had made me something of a local celebrity. Half the neighborhood thought I was a hero for exposing the cheaters, while the other half whispered about my cruel, public humiliation tactics. Laura had moved into the guest bedroom and was barely speaking to me, which was honestly an improvement over her fake cheerfulness. "You clean up nice for a computer nerd," said Mike Patterson, my best friend since college and my +1 for this disaster. Mike was a divorce attorney, not Laura's type, thank God, and he'd been my voice of reason throughout this whole mess. "Thanks. You ready to watch my ex-girlfriend marry a con artist?" "Wait, what?" I'd done my research on Gregory Shaw, Tiffany's fiancé. The man was a professional fraud artist who'd been running investment scams across 3 states. I had a folder full of evidence in my car and a plan to make sure Tiffany's perfect wedding was anything but. Long story. Just follow my lead and try to look respectable. The wedding was everything Tiffany had ever dreamed of. Massive flower arrangements, a string quartet, and enough crystals and white silk to stock a small boutique. She'd spared no expense, which made sense since she wasn't paying for it. Gregory's angel investor friends were funding the whole thing, probably with money they'd stolen from other victims. The guest list read like a who's who of social media influencers, fake entrepreneurs, and trust fund babies. Jason Fairburn, Tiffany squealed when she spotted me during the cocktail hour. I can't believe you actually came. She looked exactly like her Instagram photos, blonde, artificially enhanced, and desperate for attention. The kind of woman who photographed her breakfast and called it lifestyle content. Wouldn't miss it for the world, I said, accepting her air kisses. You look beautiful, Tiff. Thank you. And this must be your wife? She looked at Mike expectantly. Actually, I'm here solo. Laura couldn't make it. Tiffany's eyes lit up with curiosity, but before she could pry further, Gregory appeared at her side. Gregory Shaw was exactly what I'd expected. Tall, handsome in a generic way, with perfect teeth and an expensive watch. The kind of man who looked successful until you actually examined his credentials. You must be Jason, he said, extending a manicured hand. Tiffany's told me so much about you. All good things, I hope. His smile faltered slightly when he got a good look at my face. I could see the recognition dawning in his eyes. We'd met before, briefly, at a tech conference in Houston where I'd been hired to investigate some suspicious financial software. Software that had been designed by Gregory Shaw under a different name. Excuse me, he said quickly. I need to check on something with the caterers. He disappeared into the crowd, probably to figure out how much I knew and whether he needed to postpone his honeymoon plans. The ceremony itself was a gaudy spectacle that would have made a Vegas chapel owner proud. Tiffany had written her own vows, which included references to manifesting abundance and aligning chakras. Gregory's vows were shorter and focused mainly on how lucky he was to find someone so special. During the reception, I made small talk with the other guests while mentally cataloging evidence. Gregory's business partners were discussing deals that sounded suspiciously like the Ponzi schemes I'd helped expose 6 months ago. His investment firm was apparently just a website and a rented office space. Having fun? Mike asked, joining me at the bar. More than I expected. Want to see something interesting? I pulled out my phone and showed him the USB drive I'd loaded with Gregory's real financial records, criminal history, and a detailed breakdown of his current scam operation. Jesus, Jason, what are you planning to do with this? The right thing. During the toasts, I waited patiently while Gregory's best man told fabricated stories about their college adventures and Tiffany's maid of honor gushed about finding true love. When they opened the floor for additional toasts, I stood up. I'd like to say something, I announced, walking toward the microphone. Tiffany beamed at me. Everyone, this is Jason, my very first boyfriend. We dated in college. The crowd chuckled politely. Gregory looked like he might be sick. Thank you, Tiffany. I just wanted to say how happy I am that you found someone who truly deserves you. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket and held it up. Gregory, I believe this belongs to you. It's got all your financial records on it. The real ones. The room went quiet. Gregory's face had gone completely white. I'm not sure what you mean, he said carefully. Oh, I think you do. See, I work in IT, and I have this annoying habit of keeping detailed records, especially when it comes to financial fraud investigations. I plugged the USB into the laptop connected to the reception's projection system. Within seconds, bank statements, fake business licenses, and police reports were displayed on screens around the room. Ladies and gentlemen, I present Gregory Shaw, also known as Greg Stevens, also known as Gary Shepard, professional con artist, investment fraud specialist, and apparently a really terrible judge of character when it comes to choosing wedding guests. The room erupted. Gregory's investors were shouting questions, Tiffany was screaming at me, and someone had already called the police. Gregory tried to run, but Mike, bless his heart, had positioned himself by the exit. The groom went down hard when he tried to push past a man who'd played college football. You son of a bitch, Tiffany screamed at me. You ruined everything. No, I said calmly, unplugging my USB drive. I just made sure everyone knew what they were celebrating. The police arrived 20 minutes later. Gregory was arrested on outstanding warrants from 2 states, and several of his business partners were taken in for questioning. Tiffany was left standing in her $10,000 dress, sobbing into her bouquet while wedding guests scattered like roaches when the lights come on. Feel better? Mike asked as we walked to the parking garage. You know what, I actually do. My phone was buzzing with notifications. Apparently someone had live-streamed the whole thing on social media. By the time we got back to Dallas, Wedding Disaster was trending on 3 platforms. I had 17 missed calls from Laura. Laura was waiting for me when I got home Sunday night, and she was furious. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she demanded before I'd even closed the front door. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is? Everyone's talking about it." "Talking about what?" I asked innocently, hanging up my jacket. "Don't play dumb. The wedding thing is all over Facebook. Danny sent me the video. You completely destroyed that poor girl's wedding." "Poor girl?" I laughed. Tiffany was about to marry a con artist who would have stolen everything she had. I saved her from making a huge mistake. "That wasn't your decision to make." "Neither was sleeping with Scott Williams, but you made that choice anyway." She flinched like I'd slapped her. We'd been dancing around the affair for 2 weeks, but this was the first time I'd said it out loud. "We need to talk about that," she said quietly. "No, we really don't. I know everything I need to know." I walked past her toward the kitchen, where Beth and Janie were doing homework at the counter. They looked up when I entered, and I could see the worry in their eyes. Kids always know when their parents are fighting, even when you try to hide it. "Hey girls, how was your weekend?" "Boring," Beth said. "Mom made us clean our rooms twice." "She's been really grumpy," Janie added helpfully. Laura appeared in the doorway, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "Girls, go upstairs. Your father and I need to discuss some things." After they left, she turned on me with renewed fury. "You can't keep doing this, Jason. The pool party, now this wedding disaster. You're making us look like trash." "Us?" I opened the refrigerator and pulled out a beer. "There is no us anymore, Laura. You made sure of that when you started screwing your real estate agent." "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple. You wanted excitement, passion, something different. Well, congratulations. You got it." She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to figure out this new version of her husband. The Jason she'd married would have begged for explanations, promised to change, maybe even gone to counseling. This Jason was something else entirely. "What do you want?" she asked finally. "I want you to move out. I'm not leaving my daughters." "Then Scott can leave his wife, and you can all play house together. I'm sure Danny and Sam will love helping you plan the housewarming party." Her face crumpled. "Jason, please? Can't we work this out? I made a mistake, but we have 15 years together. We have the girls." For just a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "You know what your mistake was, Laura. It wasn't the affair." It was thinking I was too stupid to figure it out. The next morning, I did something I'd been planning since the pool party incident. I took the girls camping. "Really?" Janie squealed when I told them over breakfast. "Just us?" "Just us. Lake Texoma, 3 days, 2 nights. We'll fish, roast marshmallows, and tell ghost stories." Beth looked skeptical. "What about Mom?" "Mom has work to catch up on. She'll be fine." Laura tried to object, of course, but the girls were so excited that she couldn't refuse without looking like the bad guy. I'd counted on that. We left Friday afternoon in my pickup truck, camping gear loaded in the back, leaving Laura alone in our big empty house with nothing but her guilt and her boyfriend for company. The camping trip was exactly what we all needed. Away from the neighborhood gossip and their mother's drama, Beth and Janie relaxed and started acting like normal kids again. We caught fish, played cards, and stayed up late looking at stars. On Saturday afternoon, we were setting up for a game of Frisbee when Scott Williams appeared at our campsite. He looked ridiculous, designer jeans, expensive boots that had never seen dirt, and a polo shirt that probably cost more than my entire camping outfit. City boy trying to play outdoorsman. Jason, we need to talk," he announced, ignoring the girls completely. "I don't think we do," I replied, not looking up from the camp stove where I was heating soup for lunch. "This has gone far enough. You're hurting innocent people." That got my attention. I stood up slowly, noting that Scott was about 2 inches taller than me and probably 30 pounds heavier. All that gym time had to count for something, right? "Innocent people?" I repeated. "You mean like my daughters? The ones who have to deal with their mother's lies and their neighbors' gossip? That's not my fault." "Isn't it?" Beth and Janie were watching from beside the picnic table, their eyes wide. I should have sent them away, but I wanted them to see this. I wanted them to see their father stand up for himself for once. "Look," Scott said, trying a different approach. "I know you're upset, but Laura and we're in love. This isn't just some fling." "Love?" I laughed. "You're in love with a married woman who lies to her children and mocks her husband behind his back? That says a lot about your character." His face darkened. "You don't know anything about me?" I know you're sleeping with my wife. I know you convinced her to betray her family. And I know you're too much of a coward to face the consequences like a man." That did it. Scott took a step toward me, his hands clenched into fists. "You want to do this in front of your kids?" I asked quietly. He glanced at Beth and Janie, then back at me. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is." He turned to leave, but I wasn't done with him yet. "Scott," I called out. He stopped and looked back. "Next time you want to have a conversation with me, call first. Don't show up at my family's campsite uninvited." To emphasize my point, I picked up a handful of mud from beside the creek and threw it at his expensive boots. It splattered across his jeans and polo shirt, leaving dark stains that would never come out. "You son of a bitch!" he snarled, looking down at his ruined clothes. "Daddy," Janie whispered, but she didn't sound scared. She sounded impressed. Scott looked like he wanted to charge at me, but he was smart enough to realize that attacking a man in front of his children would make him look even worse than he already did. Instead, he stalked back toward the parking area, mud squelching in his designer boots. "Is that Mom's friend?" Beth asked. "That's Mom's mistake," I replied, turning back to the soup. When we got home Sunday evening, Laura was waiting with a lawyer. Claire Barnett was everything I'd expected from one of Laura's attorneys. Sharp, expensive, and completely convinced that her client was the victim in this situation. "Mr. Fairburn," she said, standing up from our kitchen table as we walked in. "I'm Claire Barnett, representing your wife in this matter." "What matter?" I asked, setting down the camping gear while the girls ran upstairs to unpack. "The dissolution of your marriage and the custody arrangements for your daughters." I looked at Laura, who was sitting at the table with a stack of papers in front of her. She couldn't meet my eyes. "Dissolution?" I repeated. "That's a fancy word for divorce." "Mrs. Fairburn has filed for legal separation," Claire continued smoothly. "She's prepared to be very reasonable about the division of assets, provided you agree to her terms regarding the children, which are primary custody with supervised visitation for you until we can establish that you're not a danger to their emotional well-being." I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The whole situation was so absurd that laughter was the only rational response. "I'm a danger to their emotional well-being?" I asked. "I'm not the one who's been lying to them for 6 months." "Your recent behavior suggests serious anger management issues," Claire said, consulting her notes. "The public humiliation of your wife, the destruction of a wedding ceremony, and, according to Mr. Williams, physical intimidation tactics." "Physical intimidation?" I looked at Laura. "You mean the mud?" Laura's face was bright red. "He said you threatened him." "I told him not to show up at our family campsite uninvited. That's not a threat, that's basic courtesy." Claire shuffled her papers importantly. "Regardless, Mrs. Fairburn is concerned about your state of mind. She's prepared to offer you generous visitation rights and a fair division of assets if you agree to anger management counseling." "How generous?" "Alternate weekends, supervised by a court-appointed guardian, half the value of the house, minus her legal fees. Joint custody of debts and responsibilities." I pretended to consider this while mentally calculating what Laura didn't know about our finances. She'd always left the money management to me, which had been a mistake on her part. "What about Scott?" I asked. "What about him? Does he get a vote in this custody arrangement, since he's apparently going to be living with my daughters?" Laura finally looked up. "That's not... We haven't discussed..." "You haven't discussed it?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled through the photos I'd taken of her text messages. "Because according to these, you've been discussing it for months." Claire held out her hand. "I'll need to see those. I'll bet you will." I put the phone away. "Here's my counteroffer. Laura moves out by the end of the week. I keep the house and primary custody of the girls. She can have her car, her clothes, and whatever money she's hidden in her personal accounts." "That's completely unreasonable," Claire snapped. "Is it?" "Because I have documentation of adultery, financial deception, and child abandonment. I also have security camera footage of her bringing her boyfriend to our house while the girls were home." That wasn't entirely true, yet, but the look on Laura's face told me I was close to the mark. "You're bluffing," Claire said. "Am I?" I pulled out my laptop and opened a file I'd been preparing for weeks. Let's see. Bank records showing mysterious cash withdrawals. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts to Scott Williams. Credit card statements for hotel rooms, restaurants, and gifts that never made it home. I turned the screen so they could see the spreadsheet I'd created, complete with dates, times, and amounts. "And then there's this," I continued, opening another file. This one contained screenshots from social media posts, neighborhood gossip, and witness statements from the pool party incident. A complete record of how Mrs. Fairburn and her friends have been publicly mocking me while she carried on her affair. Claire was reading over my shoulder, her expression growing more concerned with each line item. This is all circumstantial, she said finally. Maybe, but it's a lot of circumstantial evidence, and I haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet. I was lying about the good stuff, but I could see doubt creeping into Claire's confidence. What do you want? Laura asked quietly. I want you to be honest with our daughters about why you're leaving. I want you to move out without making this any harder on them than it already is, and I want you to stop pretending you're the victim here. And if I don't? I closed the laptop and looked directly at her for the first time since she'd moved into the guest bedroom. Then I'll make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of person you really are, starting with your law firm's partners and ending with Beth and Janie's teachers. The room was quiet for a long moment. Upstairs I could hear the girls talking and laughing as they unpacked their camping gear. Normal kid sounds in a house that hadn't felt normal in months. I need time to think, Laura said. You have until Friday. After Claire left, Laura and I sat in the kitchen, staring at each other across 15 years of marriage. I never meant for it to happen this way, she said finally. How did you mean for it to happen? I don't know. I felt invisible, like I was just going through the motions of being a wife and mother without really living. So you decided to live by screwing someone else? She flinched. It wasn't like that. What was it like? He made me feel beautiful, desired, like I was worth something. You are worth something, Laura. You're worth exactly half of everything we built together, minus what you threw away for a few months of excitement. She started crying then. Real tears, not the manipulative ones she'd been using for weeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this. The next morning, while Laura was at work, I installed security cameras throughout the house. Not to spy on my family, but to protect myself from any future accusations of improper behavior. That evening, Scott's BMW pulled into our driveway. I watched from the kitchen window as he got out of the car and walked toward our front door with the confidence of a man who thought he'd already won. When the doorbell rang, I took my time answering it. Scott, I said pleasantly. What a surprise. We need to talk. Do we? Because I thought we covered everything at the lake. He pushed past me into the foyer, and I let him. The security cameras were recording everything. This has to stop, he said, turning to face me. The games, the harassment, all of it. What games? You know what you're doing. The lawyers, the threats, the public humiliation. Laura's a wreck. Laura's a wreck because she got caught cheating on her husband and lying to her children. That's not my fault. She's leaving you anyway. Why can't you just let her go with some dignity? Dignity? I laughed. You want to talk about dignity? You're screwing a married woman in her family home while her children sleep upstairs? You convinced her to betray everything she claimed to value, and now you want to lecture me about dignity? His face was getting red. You don't understand what we have. I understand perfectly. You have a middle-aged woman going through a crisis and a predator who took advantage of it. That did it. Scott grabbed my shirt and shoved me against the wall. You son of a bitch, he snarled. I didn't fight back. I didn't need to. The cameras were getting everything. Feel better? I asked when he let go. He stared at me, breathing hard, probably realizing what he'd just done. Get out of my house, I said quietly, and don't come back. After he left, I uploaded the video to my computer and sent copies to my lawyer, my email account, and a secure cloud storage service. By Friday, Laura had moved out. She took her clothes, her car, and her dignity, leaving behind 2 confused daughters and a husband who was finally free to be himself again. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. I got the house, primary custody, and most of our assets. Laura got her freedom and a relationship with a man who'd shown his true character by assaulting her ex-husband. Scott's wife divorced him 3 weeks after the security video surfaced. His real estate license was suspended pending an investigation into his business practices, and several of his clients filed complaints about inappropriate behavior. Tiffany's wedding disaster made her a social media laughingstock, but she eventually thanked me for saving her from Gregory's scam. She's dating a nice accountant now and posts a lot less about manifesting abundance. Danny and Sam tried to maintain their friendship with Laura, but it's hard to gossip with someone when you're the subject of all the neighborhood gossip yourself. As for me, I'm doing better than I have in years. The girls adjusted to the divorce faster than I expected, probably because our house is actually peaceful now. I started dating Diane Malone, a divorced orthodontist who thinks my sarcasm is charming rather than embarrassing. Last week, I got a text from Laura. I made a mistake. Can we try again? I showed it to Beth, who's 14 now and even sharper than she was 2 years ago. What are you going to tell her? She asked. I'm going to tell her she got everything she asked for. And I did.